Dominique, thank you again. I appreciate you having me over. It's a very nice meeting you. Obviously, you have a very nice house, and I appreciate the opportunity to tell you how I can work with you. And like I said over the phone, more than make up for the commission that I charge. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. We're not, no promises. You said no obligations. So we're just interested in hearing you out and hearing what marketing tips you think it will take to get it sold.
Of course. Dominique, I hear you. And just so I know that we're on the same page, my number one goal and my main priority in working with you is to make sure that not only you sell your house for as much money possible, but so you also walk away with as much of that money as possible, and ideally in little time and as little hassle as possible. I don't want you, to have to pay an agent or to think you should pay an agent unless it actually makes sense. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, it has to make sense.
Of
Absolutely.
course. Okay, so let's just kind of jump into the market and talk about some of the factors that are going on. I'm sure you've heard of supply and demand, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of the basic law of economics kind of runs that stuff. It states that any given product or service, the more demand we can create for it, the more value it has, the more it sells for, the more it's worth, right? And the reason I bring that up is because obviously it has to do with the sale of your house too. I mean, the more interest we have in your house, the more it will sell for. I mean, we would need 100% of the buyers, 100% of also the agents that have buyers to make sure that we sell your house for as much money as possible. Can you see that?
I mean, I can kind of see that. I think though, you just need to find the right buyers. You know what I mean? Like if you have like $10 million house, you only need to expose it to like $10 million buyers.
Of course. I mean, that's such a common phrase that I hear, you need to find the right buyer. And there's a lot of truth to that. And that's true, if it was a $10 million house, obviously you only want to be marketing to people that can actually buy your house. So I get what you're saying there. And we'll say this house is worth $400,000. I don't know how to say that, but your house ain't $10 million, is it? So, I totally hear you. And I guess what I'm saying is, with a $10 million house, obviously there'd be a limited market. But with the house that's in a more common price range, we need to make sure that everyone that can buy your house is able to see your house, see the repairs and upgrades that you've done, and be able to draw in as much demand as possible. Does that make sense? I mean, you can just sell a house with one buyer, but you're not going to get as much money out of it. Is that easy to see?
I can kind of see that. Like, I know it's more like a first time home buyer. It's more for like a family and stuff like that. So there are more people like that, but I still don't think we need to expose ourselves to like 100% of all those people. Yeah.
Okay, so I feel I should stick here for a little bit just because I feel like I need this point to stick. So
yeah,
I mean, no, I hear what you're saying, and the reason I say that it's ideal to have as many buyers as possible. So let's take that $10 million house for example. They only do need one buyer to come in, and the thing is, if they only have one buyer that's interested in buying that house and they need to sell that house, the buyer can buy for whatever price they want to buy it for, couldn't they? I mean, as long as it's within reason, and the buyer could offer $9 million. If they need to sell, they're going to sell it for $9 million. Does that make sense? But if they had 5 buyers and there was competition to buy the house, then it could likely go over 10 million. Because there's only one house that they can buy, but there's 5 buyers that want to buy that house. So the way it works is for any given service or product, but specifically a house, the reason certain houses sell for more is because they have more buyers that are raising the price.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So it's like you want like a bidding war to happen. And the only way to get it is to have more than one person there.
Of course. Yeah. And I'm gonna throw this extra part, I don't even know how to get it, but I'm sure you know how hot the market is too right now, right?
Yeah, of course.
And part of the reason it's so hot is because there's such a surplus of buyers everywhere. And there's obviously, people can only build houses so fast. So the reason the market is so hot is because there's a surplus extra amount of buyers. And really you want to take advantage of that and have as many buyers looking at your house and wanting to buy your house as possible, or else you're not really using the hot market to your advantage.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that's why I think when we talked on the phone, we were thinking about putting it on the MLS, just or no, shit, sorry, I'm KSL. Yeah, and that's why we went ahead and put it on KSL because I mean most buyers know that they can buy houses there. So yeah.
Yeah, 100%. You know, people love KSL, and it's. I mean, I've used KSL to buy like two cars. I've used KSL to buy so many things since I was a kid. You know, everyone loves KSL, and no
Yeah.
gripes against that. And as far as going for sell by owner on KSL, I mean, it's definitely an option to take, but there's a few downsides. And supply and demand is one of those things we're going to talk about. Here's what's interesting, Dominique, is obviously there's a lot of studies done with selling houses because it's very important. People want to know the
Yeah.
ins and outs to it.
Yeah.
One of the basic things we know from studies and from, you know, just common sense is that about 92% of homes that were sold nationwide, of all the homes that were sold, 92% were sold agent assisted. That means that the seller had an agent and the buyer had an agent. And the reason I bring that up is because it means that about 8% were sold for sale by owner or private parties from that the technical term. So about 8% were sold private party. And is that information that surprises you or that you're familiar with?
I mean, I am curious to see how many sold with just a buyer's agent and not a listing agent because we're willing to pay a buyer's agent. We put that in there because we know that most people buy homes with an agent. Because I mean, we bought a home with an agent. I couldn't even imagine. I understand their value because they do. Like, I'm not here to be greedy. Like, I understand that they're bringing in a buyer. Um, and at the same time, too, if a buyer comes by, it would be easier for us to work with them because yeah.
Mhm. No, I get your plan there, and honestly, I think working or willing to work with a buyer's agent and pay a buyer's commission is a step in the right direction as far as helping your supply and demand and your exposure.
Yeah.
And the reason I brought up that 8% number and that 92% number was if we take a step back and actually look at supply and demand, if we know that 92% of all the sales are happening on this mainland, the main market is what we call it, and there's only 8% that are happening on this island of private sellers, private party, it's called off market. If there's only 8% happening over there, and we were just talking about how we need 100% as many buyers as possible to get top market price. What do you think that only having 8% of the market does to your price?
I mean, yeah, like you said, I guess we're on an island separated from that larger island. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think, but I think too, there's still ways that we can bridge the two. And I think that's what we're trying to accomplish because again, we don't, I, if we're trying to save as much money as possible, to be honest. So I think we have to figure out how to do that. And the biggest expense when it comes to selling a home, like no matter where you go, is the commission. So if we can have that, if we can cut that in half, I mean, that's more money that we can walk away with.
I hear what you're saying, and there definitely is ways to bridge the gap or ways that people swim across, so to say. You know, I mean, there is some sort of cross play, and we'll say that. And Dominique and I'm like I said, I think it's a good idea that you're willing to pay a buyer's agent. It opens the door a little bit to other avenues, and the reason I ask how much you think it affects your sales price, that lack of exposure, is because obviously it's a good point to bring up and make sure that we've thought through all the way through. I'm also trying to figure out where your head's at because everyone's different and everyone thinks of life differently. So I'm trying to figure out and I'm genuinely trying to ask and get I don't know how to word that. I can find a better way to word that. And see what number you think would actually, how much your sales price would actually drop by.
I would say it more like I want to understand from your perspective where you feel that how you feel that plays a role in the price of your home, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Dominique, and obviously I'm just trying to understand your perspective on how you see things and how you think that would affect your sales price.
You know, I mean, that's a good point, and I see what you're saying. I don't feel comfortable with the question because you know you never know because I've seen properties down my street that are terrible, and they still manage to sell for overpriced. So I mean, I really don't know. I feel like it wouldn't be that much of a difference. Maybe it might be a little less because we're not able to see every buyer. Every buyer isn't able to see us. So I'd say like maybe, but I feel like it'd be minimal, like plus or minus 1% or something like that.
Okay. And Dominique, I respect your response saying that it makes, there's a lot of factors, obviously.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we'll just move on from there. And Dominique, you said about 1% or 2, and that would make sense. Keep in mind though, it's not that you're missing out on a few buyers, that you're missing out on 92% of the buyers. So it's a big factor there. And again, a lot of studies are done on this. And what we know from 2020, for example, is that homes that were sold on that private party island, yeah, on the off-market island.
Private party island, yeah.
Homes that were sold on the off-market island actually sold for 24% less than their actual value.
Well, interesting.
And Dominique, I know that's a lot, and I know you're not going to do that. Okay. And keep this in mind too. In 2020 was, a really hot year, and for sale by owners still sold for that much less.
So I don't understand that then. How and who? What study was this? And how would there be such a large difference, especially in a hot market like
There's
this?
a lot of studies. The easiest one to go read that they condense down is the NAR, National Association of Realtors, called the Profile of Buyers and Sellers. They do one each year. 2019 it was 26%, 2020 it was 24%, so it's about the same. And there's a lot of reasons, and we could sit here for hours and talk. There's many reasons. One of the big ones we just talked about is the lack of exposure, is missing out on the strong majority of all the buyers out there. I mean, think about it. How likely is it that the highest paying buyer, forget competition, and driving up the price, how likely is it that your highest paying buyer is going to be in that 8% of the market? So keep that in mind. And another big reason is not just the quantity of buyers.
It's more likely that they'll be in the bigger island. Is that what you're saying?
Of course, yeah. There's a lot more people there. So if you had to guess where the person's going to be on, what island they're going to be on, you pick the one with more people.
Yeah.
And then also there's the combination. Go ahead.
Yeah. So it's like 92% chances. So it's like you have an 8% chance. Is that what you're saying? Like you have an 8% chance of finding a buyer over there, or you have a 92% chance of finding a buyer over here. And then so it makes sense to find a buyer, your greater chance on the greater island. Is that basically?
Dominique, I guarantee you can sell this. You'll find a buyer on either island you would like. What I'm saying is finding the highest paying buyer. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, okay, so time out real quick. So obviously we're only got 10 minutes left. So, and I feel like you're responding a lot. So that's why I feel like we're taking enough time to dive into things. So I feel like I should be taking this long. Is that?
Yeah, no, I think the timing is good.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, yeah, in terms of what I just said too, that was to say, like, that was to agree with you, but just reconceptualize it in my own head.
So I shouldn't have even kept talking there, basically.
No, I think you could have been like, exactly. You have a greater chance of finding that highest paying buyer. Yeah, because I think the way you worded it, it was like, I kind of felt like you thought I was disagreeing with you, and I wasn't. I was just trying to because sometimes people will do that. They'll try to process it in their own ways.
Gotcha. You're right. I see.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think that would have been like, yeah, you're right. Like you have a greater chance of not only finding a buyer, but also finding your highest paying buyer over here on 92% island. Yeah. I do like the island analogy. That was really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I'll use that one then.
Yeah. And you can, so you can keep going. That's why I wanted to move it up to 7. So you have plenty of time. That way.
Really? Are you?
Yeah.
You feel comfortable going till another half hour or so? Or
I feel like let's go until 7:50.
50? All right, I'm down for that.
7:50. Yeah. That'll give me time for a potty break.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So just doing that. Okay. And yeah, so exactly. We definitely obviously would have a higher chance of finding the right buyer, or finding the buyer, also a higher chance of finding the higher paying buyer too. So you're exactly right. And now I'm fucking lost. and And Dominique, earlier you mentioned that you were willing to pay a buyer's commission, right?
Yes.
Good. And part of the reason that 24% number, I know it's a big number, it's going to stick in your head. Okay. Part of the reason for that is like the quantity of exposure we just went over. It's also the quality of exposure. Unfortunately, almost all for sale by owners sell to investors, not to people with agents. Is that something you were familiar with?
No, not really.
Yeah, and that, I mean, I don't know how to say I would expect that response, but and Dominique, that makes sense. This is something that we talk about in the real estate community. Agents actually avoid working for sale by owners, and I'm sure that's probably something that sounds surprising to you or sounds off-putting in a way.
Yeah, it does. I feel like it would be easier to work for a buyer's agent to work directly with the seller, to be honest.
It depends on how you look at it. I think the way you're looking at it, it definitely can be easier as far as you don't have another agent to go up against. Is that what
Yeah.
you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
For the buyer's agent, it's definitely easier to negotiate the price lower and lower, which is another big reason we'll jump into, because there's no
Oh.
listing agent going against them to, to compete and negotiate against. So it's
Mm.
easier in that aspect. There's three big reasons buyer's agents really avoid for sale by owners, and this is common knowledge in the real estate industry. The first reason being that, and this might sound weird, is that most for sale by owners aren't actually for sale.
Oh.
Yeah, a lot of them, for lack of a better term, are fishing. It's very common practice, here to
Yeah.
just put your house up and just take a few pictures of it, put it up there and see what happens, and if you get a really generous offer, which I mean, most of the time is not realistic, $100,000 or $200,000 over market value, then maybe they'll accept that and maybe they'll go buy a new house somewhere else, right? Or, maybe they just want to gauge the market with intentions of selling in a year or two. That's very obviously, who doesn't want to do that?
Yeah, I definitely, because before we listed ours, I tried to call a few other sellers to see how they liked the process, and I couldn't get a hold of any of them actually, which I thought was very strange. Yeah.
Yes, yes. It's a very, I mean, it's something we deal with in the real estate market, is on the buyer side and the seller side too. There's just so many people that are looking, that are just putting things out there just because they can, for various reasons. And it takes a lot of time. So a buyer's agent, and they're dealing with their buyer, time is obviously very important. It takes a lot of time to sift through a lot of for sale by owners to find out which ones are for sale and which ones would actually work for you too. And obviously to call them, hopefully they answer. If they don't, you got to keep calling them,
Yeah.
schedule an appointment, make an offer. All of that time goes to waste, a significant portion of the time when you
Yeah.
find out, they don't respond after you get the offers in. So that's the first reason. The second reason is that, say you take all of that time with your buyer, your buyer's agent, and you work with the buyer, take all of that time, you get a house under contract, they typically take about 2 or 3 times longer to close. I don't know how familiar you are with the closing process.
I mean, I'm familiar with it when I bought this place, so I know how long it takes. Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a minute, and you bought it with an agent, right?
Yeah. So it took us about 30 days to close and everything.
Okay, so I'm assuming the seller also had a listing agent, right? If it
Yeah.
only
No,
took
they
30
had an
days.
agent. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that takes a long time with agents. I mean, obviously closing, there's a lot of steps, and it's very detailed process. Can you imagine someone, a for sale by owner doesn't have a lot of experience in closing, hasn't gone through this process a lot of times, having to make sure they get every step right with all the deadlines, all the paperwork, all the specific steps they need to take? Obviously it's going to take a lot longer.
Well, yeah, I can see that. And I think too, in order to help, like we've already picked our escrow company and they said that they would help us through that process. So I'm
Good.
not too worried about it taking a long time. But I can see how, yeah, I'm not too worried about us for it taking a long time for us.
Good. I'm glad you reached out to an escrow company, and that will definitely help with some portions of it. There's a lot that actually have to do with your house as far as the walkthrough, these inspections, parts of the appraisal that they're obviously, I mean, unless you pay them a lot of money, I've never heard of an escrow company doing this. That's going to help. Time out. You can tell me later about that if that's true or not. And there's still a lot of things that you're going to have to cover on your own, and a lot of the paperwork too that you're going to have to do on your own. And that's the reason number two, combined with number one, takes a lot of time. Is that, that's easy to see, right?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Okay, great. And the third reason, the most important one, probably the biggest reason, is that even though they take twice as long to close, almost half the time these deals fall through once they get under contract, and it's usually within the last week or two.
Mm,
Is that
okay.
is that surprising to you? I'd find a better way to phrase that, but
Um, a little bit, yeah, but I think, like you said, if a lot of them aren't serious, it would. I can see why they would be falling apart. Yeah.
mhm. Well, so if you get under contract, it's almost always a serious seller. So the
Okay.
reason they fall apart is actually it's similar to the previous reason is that they don't have someone representing them. And when they mess up on the contract or mess up on they did something incorrectly by the wrong date, it's just one more reason for the contract to fall apart. And there's, countless
Oh, okay.
steps. And
So,
when you don't do something correctly, yeah.
okay, so it's so under contract, they're serious, but then they do something that makes it fall apart.
Mhm. Yes,
Okay.
exactly. And contracts have the chance to fall apart even when both sides are represented by an agent, right? Can you imagine how hard it is to actually get a contract closed and make sure you're doing everything correctly when you don't have an agent to represent you?
Potentially, yeah.
So, I mean, those are the main reasons, and there's subtle reasons within there, obviously too, but those are the main reasons why buyers agents avoid or told and tell their buyers too if they actually bring them for sale by owner why you don't look for sale by owners.
Hmm.
So I think paying or offering the 50% commission, there will be some buyers with agents, but no, I don't know if I should take that route, but they're just bargain hunters and they're gonna basically act the same as investors where they're okay sifting through all the houses, taking all the extra time, having contracts fall through in order to get a significant cut on the house that they buy. And obviously, even if you were to get that, you're not looking to take a significant loss on this property, right?
No, absolutely not. No.
Yeah. And so, I mean, we just talked about closing and negotiations. I would say everyone has their theories on why for sale by owners sell for less. Closing and negotiations is clear as day to me as the biggest reason why for sale by owners sell less. I mean, like we said, it's a long time, it's a long process. For sale by owners don't have anyone to represent them. If they get a buyer's agent, they're obviously negotiating against them. Same with an
Yeah.
investor, they're doing the same. The first thing the buyer's agent or the investor is going to do is order an inspection. And the inspector's job is to come through and really pick your house apart as much as they can and pick and write a list of anything that's imperfect. Just write a list of anything they can get their hands on. And they're going to bring that back to their buyer. And they're going to use that as their official terms of negotiating against you to get the price lower and lower throughout the process. And
Yeah.
I can guarantee you, just in that process alone, I can save you thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars, just right there in the inspections period.
Okay.
And obviously there's a lot more. There's appraisals, there's walkthroughs, there's earnest money, there's escrow accounts, there's paperwork for all of this, contracts,
Yeah.
end dates for all of this. I hope it's easy to see by now. There's a lot of ways where I can be a financial benefit to you and more than make up for my 3% commission. Jesus.
Yeah. I can kind of see it. Yeah. I mean, okay. Because we don't, yeah, we're not going to take price cuts and I don't want to deal with all that at all. So I can see that. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's a lot we just talked about because selling a house obviously isn't there's a lot to it. So I know it's kind of a lot to look at.
Yeah. So
Um,
what would my net then be if we were accounting for the savings that you bring us versus your commission? Like where
so
would we be walking? What would we be walking away with?
So obviously, to give you an exact number, we have to go into the CMA first, but to give you a rough idea, if you were to sell for sale by owner, we can take a quick 24% look at that, we get 24% less. If you pay commission, if you want to look how you're paying me 3%, but in overall, it's going to cost you 6%. So 6% subtracted from 24 is 18%. So it's going to net you about 18%.
Okay. That's not bad. Yeah. Okay.
I think 18% is pretty good.
Yeah, no, I think compared to selling it for 26% less, 24%, whatever it is. Yeah, no, I think that's pretty good.
We time out. So I heard her say 24%, and I haven't looked, but is it 24 or 26? Because I heard it was 24 for 2020.
I don't know. I think it's 26. I would have to look it up. I
Okay.
think when I printed the notes, I think it was like 26%. Yeah.
Okay. Because I know she
Yeah.
switched a while ago, but not that long ago. But so,
Yeah.
um, so yeah, difference would be about 18%, blah 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 blah. And so before we jump into the CMA really quick though, I want to actually tell you about what I do to differentiate myself from other agents. I'm sure you're very familiar with, the sign in the yard, what other agents do, right? They take, photos, put your house up on the internet, right? The
Yeah.
basics,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And that's why we initially listed it for sale by owner. We're like, we can more than do all of that for sure. Yeah.
I would too. That'd be my same thought process too. And what those agents do, I don't want to knock on it because a lot of it does work. It may not be hard, but a lot of it does work to a certain extent and can get your house sold for market value. It's called passive marketing. And the issue with it is once it's done, all that's left to do is sit and wait and pray that the agents literally just sit there and wait and pray that the offers come in. I mean, what else can you do, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's what we've been doing pretty much.
Yeah.
We've just kind of been like waiting for the phone to ring.
Yeah.
Or like doing the open houses and waiting, like not chasing people, but just like waiting for people to like walk through and then like try to follow up with them and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. Awkward houses can be, I mean, they can be kind of weird depending on how you handle them. So,
Yeah.
and like I was saying, those methods definitely, there's a lot of value in those. And I also do with that passive marketing. I do step it up quite a bit though. I do premium ads, so they're always showing up at the top. I get professional footage, professional pictures. I get drone footage also. Basically, long story short, I pay for the best, so you get the best results. I mean, obviously, hiring an agent isn't cheap, so I want to make sure I'm investing as much money as I possibly can into making sure you get as much money out of this house as you can.
Yeah.
What really separates me, aside from the negotiating skills that I have, what really separates me from the other agents is the active marketing that I do. And active marketing is exactly what it sounds like compared to passive marketing. It means I'm going out for you and working for you every single day to bring in buyers until your house sells. And an example of that is one of the first things I'm going to do. Maybe that's too assumptive, but one of the first things I'm going to do tomorrow is call your nearest 400 neighbors and let them know that your house is for sale. Obviously, moving in real estate has been a hot topic. Everyone's talking about with their friends and family, moving to Utah, moving in and around Utah. I'm going to personally call the 400 neighbors in this area and let them know that your house is for sale and talk to them about maybe if they have someone that would like to come in and look and make an offer. That's just an example. And then from then on, once I get that done, which takes a few days, from 9 to 12, every single day, I'm calling about 400 to 500 phone numbers, all of them being a buyer or seller in this market right now. I'll just leave it at that. And obviously that type of work is great for me because it brings in more business for me. Also, it allows me to cross-sell and close my current deals. It's great for you because obviously it means I'm bringing in buyers and driving up the sales price of your property.
Okay.
So, and that's the kind of agent you wouldn't work with for you, right? One who goes out and works for you every single day, right?
Yeah. Obviously.
Okay. So this is part I might close out. I'm not sure. It's kind of like the pre-soft close before I go to soft close. And so Dominique, let me ask you to see. Dominique, let me see where you're at and understand your perspective. Do you think that do you think that's someone who will work every day for you and help you avoid that 24% loss and make sure you sell your house for as much money possible, make sure you walk away with as much money possible, and also protect you through closing? Do you think that is worth investing 3%?
Yeah, I would say so.
I think that I don't know how to agree with that. I'd be like, yeah, you're right. But
just move it quickly.
Just
like,
move it quickly.
Great. Yeah, just be like,
great.
So let's work together on determining a price so that we can get it sold. Yeah.
All right, great. So before we jump into, so great. So we can agree on a price and Jesus, it needs to work. Okay, great. So we can go ahead and agree on a price today. Can I go ahead and get to work and get your property listed for you?
Yeah. So what do you think the property is worth?
Okay, CMA.
Okay.
Oh wait, and then I'll just do the hard close because I don't know, my CMA, when I've gone over CMA, it's fine. So hard closes, we'll say $399. All right, let's get this paperwork filled out and I get to work for you. Sign here. Sign here.
Okay, how did you feel about that?
The transitions, part of the transitions need work, and I've known that for a while, and they're getting better though. I don't know. I thought it was okay. I thought it was okay.
Yeah, I thought it was good. Yeah, so let's start from the beginning. I think your opening was good.
And we're about 30 minutes too right now. We haven't done the CMA, but it's about 30 minutes. So.
Yeah, so I think the timing was good, and then like you said, if they're interactive, obviously it'll push it out further. But I think you paced it out very well.
I think I was talking too fast sometimes. I don't know if you noticed that.
I did notice it in a few parts, and it kind of, so some of your words were blurred, and I think that's where I was kind of like, so you're saying this or you're saying that.
It's definitely mumbling a little bit, stumbling a little bit.
Yeah. So I definitely just enunciate and kind of just
slow down
a little bit. Yeah, but it brought high energy, so it wasn't like too distracting, but I would say slow down a little bit, especially on the parts in the beginning, like on the data and statistics and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So that way they follow it. But I think and when I say slow down, I'm not like it's not a massive difference, just like a little bit more difference, kind of like that. Yeah. And then as far as let's see, so you went to that part, and then you went to that part. I like how you set up the 92%, and I like how you segued into 26%. I liked how you talked about different problems. That was really good. And then I would say escrow is not going to get involved in like the disclosures or like the inspections or the appraisals. So
you're not
you
gonna
can
sell your house with all that shit. So.
Yeah. So I would say and that's, you know what, that's absolutely great that you reached out and found an escrow company who's able to help you with their documentations and what they'll need. However, there are other items that they legally cannot touch. So they won't be able to come to your home and walk through the property with you and to disclose things that are ultimately your liability. And so it's really helpful to have an agent there who can help you navigate that process. And the same thing applies with inspections and an appraisal. The escrow officer, they're there to be a neutral third party. So they can't legally, again, get involved in those things for your benefit. So of course it's a great asset to have, but again, that's why it's a value to you to have an agent to make sure, like just kind of like that.
That was really good.
Yeah. And then I would say when it comes to, I would say just don't be surprised when I'm like actually in agreement with you. Cause like towards the end, I was like, yeah. And then you were like, wait, let me check where your head's at. And I was like, I just said, yeah.
Oh, you're right. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
I just expected you to disagree.
Yeah, exactly.
To listen better. It was obviously what that means, but then expect you to agree because that's the whole point.
Yeah, exactly. You have to I think, a part of you, it feels like you're expecting me to disagree, which is probably something that I subconsciously trained you to do because I was disagreeing.
That's experience based for me too, obviously.
Yeah. So, okay.
But the whole point is to get them to agree with you. So you got to be watching out for that point when they do start agreeing with you, I think.
Exactly. And when they do start agreeing with you, it's then just start agreeing back and be like, okay, great, let's get to work. Let's move, let's go. Okay. Yeah.
One thing I did like that I have been doing better is not, it wasn't that hard, but you did give me a few distractions, and distractions is something I definitely struggle with. So keeping it on script for the most part.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Give me next Thursday. Did you say Thursday? Yeah, Thursday.
Yeah.
Next Thursday. Give me a price objection because I've been working on that. Last time you gave me that, I was like, fuck. So.
Okay, we'll make a note next Thursday. Do price objection. Okay. That was good. That was good. Awesome, and good timing too. So cool.
Yeah.
Oh, and then you want to do next Thursday at 7 too?
Yeah, it works for me.
Okay.
Did you want to do yours at 7? Do a listing presentation, or we'll leave it open?
Yeah, we can. No, let's do listing presentation and go over it, and then so let's do it at 7.
Okay.
All right. Cool.
Okay, sounds good. And then, real quick, did you do your business 2021-2022 business plan?
No, it's all zero. No,
I know. Mine actually is all zero. So.
I'm like, I don't. This doesn't make me feel great. No,
I know, but the future goals part you can set up too. That's what
the future goals I can.
And the improvements you can make too. That's what I did a lot of. So
I haven't done that yet though, but I should.
I know she's gonna ask today, so
Oh, is that? Oh, has it been a week since she asked us? I guess so.
Thursday.
Yeah.
So
Ooh,
I wasn't there on Tuesday, but she said she was gonna ask last Thursday on this Thursday. So
yeah.
keep that in mind.
Okay. Good. I know. I'm just like, stay motivated, stay motivated, stay motivated.
I feel you. I feel you.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. But
All right.
yeah, thank you. I appreciate everything. And I'll see you today at 11. So
I will see you today at your 11.
all right.
Bye.
Bye.